The Riverside estate was everything my parents wanted for their 30th anniversary party. Manicured gardens, a ballroom with crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. 200 guests mingling with champagne glasses, congratulating my parents on 3 decades of marriage. I stood near the dessert table in my discount store dress, watching my sister Amanda work the room like the socialite she'd become. Designer gown, perfect hair, that confidence that comes from always being the favorite. She moved from group to group, laughing at the right moments, touching arms, making everyone feel special. "Your sister is radiant," Aunt Helen said, appearing beside me. "Such poise. Such success. Your parents must be so proud." "They are," I agreed, taking a sip of champagne. "And you, dear? Still working at that? What was it?" "Something with numbers." "Accounting," I supplied, though that wasn't quite accurate. I did work with numbers. Just not the way she imagined. Right. Accounting. That's practical." The way she said it made practical sound like a consolation prize. "Amanda tells me she just made partner at her law firm. Youngest partner in the firm's history. Can you imagine?" "It's impressive," I said truthfully. "Amanda was good at what she did. Brilliant, actually. She'd earned her success. The problem wasn't Amanda's success. The problem was that it was the only success my parents could see. Ladies and gentlemen." My father's voice boomed over the microphone at the front of the ballroom. "If I could have your attention, please." The crowd quieted. My mother stood beside him, elegant in her silver gown, beaming at their guests. Behind them, a slideshow played on a massive screen. Photos from their wedding, from raising 2 daughters, from building their life together. 30 years ago, Dad began, his voice thick with emotion, "I married the love of my life. We've built something beautiful together. A home, a family, a legacy. And tonight, surrounded by all of you, I want to celebrate not just our marriage but everything we've created." The crowd applauded. Mom wiped tears from her eyes. "We've been blessed with 2 daughters," Dad continued. "And while every parent thinks their children are special, I can say with absolute certainty that we've been extraordinarily lucky. Particularly with Amanda." I felt the words like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting them. Even though this was nothing new. "Amanda," Dad said, gesturing for my sister to join them at the front. She glided forward, graceful and glowing. "Amanda has exceeded every expectation. Harvard Law, making partner at 32, married to a wonderful man. She's everything we hoped she'd be and more." Amanda smiled, humble and proud simultaneously. Her husband James stood nearby, looking appropriately supportive. "So I'd like to make a toast," Dad raised his glass higher. "To my wife Patricia for 30 years of love and partnership. And to Amanda, our successful daughter, who makes us proud every single day. Our successful daughter. Singular." The crowd raised their glasses. "To Patricia and Amanda," they chorused. I raised mine too, clapping politely as Amanda hugged our parents. As people crowded around to congratulate her. As I stood near the dessert table, invisible as always. "That was lovely," Aunt Helen said beside me. "Though I'm surprised your father didn't mention you as well." "He mentioned both daughters," I said carefully. "He just chose to highlight Amanda specifically. Still, seems like an oversight." She patted my arm sympathetically. "But accounting is important too, dear. Someone has to do the practical jobs." I smiled and said nothing. What would I say? That I owned more than Amanda ever would? That while she was making partner at her law firm, I was building an empire? That the practical accounting job was actually running a portfolio of businesses worth $280 million? They wouldn't believe me anyway. They'd made up their minds about me years ago. I was finishing my champagne when I noticed Gerald Martinez approaching. Gerald was the general manager of Riverside Estate, the man I'd hired 3 years ago when I bought the property. He looked nervous. "Ms. Collins," he said quietly, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to discuss the contract renewal. It expires next month, and with your directive to potentially sell the property, I need to know how to proceed with bookings." I told Gerald to be discreet about my ownership. To use my name only when necessary. To handle day-to-day operations without drawing attention to who actually owned the venue. But here now at my parents' anniversary party, surrounded by 200 people who just watched my father toast his successful daughter, while pretending I didn't exist. Discretion suddenly felt overrated. Actually, Gerald, I said loud enough that the people around us could hear, we should discuss this now. Now? He looked alarmed. Are you sure? I'm sure. I turned to face him fully, aware that Aunt Helen was listening intently. Let's talk about the contract renewal for next year's events. My mother had noticed the conversation. She was moving toward us, curiosity evident on her face. Amanda, still basking in Dad's toast, hadn't noticed yet. Ms. Collins, Gerald said, the current contract allows the property to be booked for corporate and private events through December. After that, we'll need new agreements. But if you're planning to sell... I am planning to sell, I confirmed. Put the property on the market next week. My mother reached us. Excuse me, but did you just say you're selling this property? Yes, I said simply. I don't understand. Who are you? Gerald looked between us, finally understanding the situation. Mrs. Collins, this is. I'm Lily, I said. Your other daughter. I know who you are. I mean, who are you in relation to this venue? I own it. My mother's face went blank. You, what? I own Riverside Estate. I bought it 3 years ago for $12 million. Current valuation is about $14.5 million. Gerald here is the general manager I hired to run day-to-day operations. That's impossible. You're an accountant. I am an accountant. Specifically, I'm a CPA who specializes in business acquisitions and portfolio management. I own 17 businesses across 3 states. Riverside Estate is one of them. My father had noticed the commotion. He was moving toward us, Amanda and James following. Other guests were starting to pay attention, the party conversation dimming as people sensed drama. What's going on? Dad asked, his jovial host expression fading. Your daughter owns this venue, Mom said, her voice strange. Lily. She says she owns this venue. That's ridiculous, Amanda said immediately. Lily can barely afford her apartment. There's no way she owns Riverside Estate. I don't own my apartment, I corrected mildly. I own the building my apartment is in. 24 units total. The rent from the other 23 covers the mortgage and maintenance. I live there free. Amanda's mouth opened then closed. Ms. Collins, Gerald interjected, trying to be helpful, should we discuss the catering contract as well? Gourmet Affairs is asking about extending their exclusive arrangement for events at the venue. Gourmet Affairs? My mother's voice was faint. That's who catered tonight. I know, I said. I own Gourmet Affairs too. Bought it 2 years ago. It came as part of a package deal with Riverside Estate. The previous owner wanted to sell both businesses together. Made sense to keep them integrated. You own the catering company? Dad repeated. And Prestige Auto Group, Gerald added, apparently deciding that if we were doing this, we were doing it completely. Should we extend the fleet contract for the venue's valet service? Prestige Auto Group, Amanda said slowly. That's where James and I bought our cars. Where Mom and Dad bought theirs. I know, I said. I bought the dealership 18 months ago. It was underperforming, but the location was prime and the brand relationships were solid. We restructured management and it's now one of the most profitable in the region. My father's face had gone from confused to pale. You own the dealership where we bought our Mercedes? And Amanda's BMW. And James's Audi. Yes. How? Amanda demanded. How do you own all of this? You work in accounting. I work in business acquisition and management. I've been buying and restructuring businesses for the past 9 years. Started small. A struggling restaurant, a retail store about to close. Learned as I went. Leveraged profits from one acquisition to fund the next. Built a portfolio slowly and carefully. How much? Dad asked, his voice hollow. How much are you worth? The portfolio is currently valued at approximately $280 million. I own 100% equity in 17 businesses, so my personal net worth is essentially that. Give or take depending on market conditions. The ballroom had gone completely silent. 200 guests were now watching this conversation unfold. Amanda looked like she'd been slapped. Mom had sat down on a nearby chair. Dad was just staring at me. $280 million, Amanda repeated. Approximately. Some of the businesses are worth more than their purchase price, some less. Real estate has appreciated significantly. Overall, the portfolio has performed well. Why didn't you tell us? Mom whispered. I did tell you. Every time I visited, I mentioned the businesses I was working with. I talked about acquisitions, about restructuring, about portfolio management. You weren't listening. We would have listened if you'd said you owned them. Amanda protested. Would you? Because I specifically remember Thanksgiving 3 years ago when I mentioned buying a property for events and hospitality. Dad told me I was overextending myself. Mom said I should focus on stable employment. You, Amanda, said I was being irresponsible and should think about my retirement. Amanda flushed. I was trying to help. You were being condescending. There's a difference. I looked at Gerald. List the property next week. Asking price $16 million. We've made enough improvements to justify the premium. Wait, Dad said. You can't sell Riverside Estate. This is where we've had family events for years. Where we celebrated Amanda's wedding. Where we're celebrating our anniversary. You've had events here for 3 years, I corrected. Because I've owned it for 3 years. Before that, you'd never heard of this place. But we love it here, Mom said. Then you should have paid attention to who made it available to you. Gerald, make sure the new owners honor existing contracts, but no new bookings under family rates after the sale. Family rates. Amanda's voice rose. We've been getting family rates? Of course. Did you think you were paying full price? The wedding reception you had here. Amanda, you paid $12,000. Market rate for what you booked was $45,000. The anniversary party tonight that you're all enjoying? You paid $8,000. It cost $28,000. I've been subsidizing every family event at my venue for 3 years. The silence was deafening. You've been subsidizing us? Dad asked. Someone had to. Your retirement savings took a hit in 2020. Mom's health insurance went up. You refinanced the house. I've been aware of your financial situation for years. So yes, I subsidized events. I also own the car dealership where you bought your Mercedes at what you thought was an incredible deal, 25% below market rate. Guess who approved that pricing? You, Mom whispered. Me. And the catering for tonight? The food you've all been raving about? Market rate would be $15,000. You paid $4,500. Because I own the company. Why? Amanda demanded. Why help us while letting us think you were struggling? I never said I was struggling. You assumed it. I lived modestly by choice, invested my money in businesses instead of material possessions. You saw my lifestyle and created a narrative. I didn't correct you because frankly, I didn't need your approval. But we're family, Mom said, tears forming. Are we? Because Dad just toasted his successful daughter, singular, while I stood in the room he was celebrating in, eating food from the company I own at the venue I own, having arrived in a car I sold him at a discount. And none of you noticed. None of you thought to include me. None of you considered that maybe, just maybe, I'd been successful in my own way. We didn't know, Dad protested. You didn't ask. 9 years, Dad. 9 years of me mentioning my work, my acquisitions, my businesses. 9 years of you changing the subject, of offering unsolicited advice, of comparing me unfavorably to Amanda. You never once asked for details. Never once showed genuine interest. You decided who I was and you stopped looking at who I actually am. James, Amanda's husband, spoke for the first time. The law firm where Amanda made partner. You don't own that too, do you? No. Amanda's success is entirely her own. She earned it. She's brilliant at what she does. I looked at my sister. I've never resented your success, Amanda. I've been genuinely proud of you. But I resented being invisible. I resented being the cautionary tale, the daughter who wasn't quite good enough, the one to worry about. I never meant, Amanda started then stopped. Okay, that's not true. I did feel superior. I did enjoy being the successful one. But Lily, you let me believe it. You could have told me years ago. I tried. Remember when I invited you to the opening of the restaurant I'd acquired? You canceled because you had a work dinner. Remember when I asked you to come see the retail space I'd renovated? You said you were too busy. Every time I tried to share my work, you had something more important to do. Because I thought you were talking about little projects, Amanda said, her voice breaking. I thought you were doing small-time stuff. If I'd known you owned multi-million-dollar businesses, you would have paid attention. That's the problem, Amanda. My work should have been worth your attention regardless of the dollar amount. Success shouldn't have to be loud to matter. Gerald cleared his throat. Miss Collins, I have the venue coordinator asking about wine supplier contracts. Should we? Not now, Gerald. Thank you. I turn back to my family. Here's what's going to happen. I'm selling Riverside Estate because it no longer makes sense for my portfolio. I'm consolidating holdings and focusing on different sectors. Gourmet Affairs will be sold as part of that package. Prestige Auto Group I'm keeping. It's performing too well to let go. What about family rates? Mom asked quietly. What about them? The new owners won't have a family connection to you. You'll pay market rates. Which I should mention you can afford because Dad's consulting income has recovered and Mom's investments have performed well. You're not struggling financially. You just liked getting discounts. That's harsh, Dad said. Is it? You just publicly announced that you have one successful daughter. At a venue your other daughter owns. Using a catering service your other daughter owns. After arriving in cars your other daughter sold you. You were harsh first. I'm just being honest now. What do you want from us? Amanda asked. An apology? Public recognition? What? I don't want anything from you. That's what I'm trying to explain. I don't need your approval or your recognition. I never did. I built this portfolio because I'm good at it, because I enjoy it, because I saw opportunities others missed. Your opinion was never the goal. Then why tell us now? Dad challenged. Why not just let us keep believing what we believed? Because you crossed a line. You didn't just ignore my success privately. You publicly celebrated Amanda while erasing me. At my venue using my services surrounded by my subsidies. That felt like it needed addressing. Mom was crying fully now. We've been terrible parents to you. Not terrible. Just blind. You saw what you wanted to see. Amanda fit your definition of success. Harvard law firm partner married to a professional. I didn't fit that mold, so you wrote me off. Never mind that I was building something larger than Amanda's salary. Never mind that I was employing hundreds of people. Never mind that I was generating more revenue than her entire law firm. I didn't look successful, so I wasn't successful. How do we fix this? Dad asked, his voice breaking. I don't know that you can. Not immediately. Maybe over time if you actually start paying attention to my life. Actual attention, not performative interest, because now you know about the money. We will. Mom promised. Lily, we will. We'll do better. We'll see. Gerald approached again, this time with a woman in a Gourmet Affairs uniform. Miss Collins, I'm so sorry to interrupt again, but Chef Rodriguez has a question about the dessert course. What's the question? The chocolate fountain. Should we set it up on the East Terrace or keep it in the main ballroom? I almost laughed. Here we were, having this massive family revelation, and the practical details of running a venue still needed attention. East Terrace. The weather's nice and it'll photograph better against the sunset. Thank you. Gerald hesitated. Miss Collins, should I make an announcement? About the ownership? Some guests seem confused. No announcement. Let them wonder. It's my parents' anniversary party. Let them have their celebration. Even after what your father said? Amanda asked quietly. Even after he basically pretended you don't exist? He didn't pretend I don't exist. He just chose to highlight you. And honestly, Amanda, you deserve highlighting. You've accomplished a lot. I'm not trying to diminish that. I'm just tired of being diminished myself. You were never diminished, Dad protested. We love you. You love your idea of me. The struggling daughter who needs guidance. The practical accountant doing her boring job. You've never loved the real me because you've never looked at the real me. So show us, Mom said. Show us who you really are. Let us learn. Please. I looked at my parents, at their tear-stained faces in genuine distress. At Amanda, who looked shaken and smaller somehow. At James, who was clearly re-evaluating everything he thought he knew about his wife's family. At the 200 guests pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. Fine, I said finally. But it happens on my terms. No more assumptions. No more condescension. No more treating Amanda's success as the only success that matters. We start fresh as adults with mutual respect. Can you do that? Yes, Mom said immediately. Whatever it takes. Dad. He nodded slowly. Whatever it takes. I'm sorry, Lily. I'm so sorry I missed this. That I missed you. Amanda. My sister looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Respect maybe. Or fear. Or both. I'm sorry too. And Lily? For what it's worth, I'm impressed. What you've built is extraordinary. Thank you. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why business acquisition? Why that specific path? Because I saw what happened to Dad's consulting firm when the market shifted. I saw how vulnerable single income streams were. I wanted to build something diversified, something that could weather economic changes. Multiple businesses across multiple sectors meant if one struggled, others could compensate. It's about strategy, about seeing the whole board instead of just one piece. That's brilliant, James said. That's genuinely brilliant. It's practical, I said with a slight smile. Someone has to do the practical jobs. Aunt Helen, still hovering nearby, looked like she might faint. You mean all this time? All this time I was building a multi-million-dollar portfolio while you all thought I was barely getting by. Yes. But you dress so simply. You drive a Honda. The Honda is paid off and reliable. The clothes are comfortable. I don't need designer labels to prove my worth. Unlike some people, I don't measure success by how expensive my life looks. That landed. I could see it in faces around the ballroom. The people who'd dismissed me, pitted me, written me off because I didn't fit their definition of success. If you'll excuse me, I said, I need to check on something in the kitchen. Gerald, the timeline for the cake cutting. 30 minutes, Miss Collins. Perfect. Make sure the photographer is ready. I turned to my parents. It's your anniversary. You should enjoy it. We can talk about all of this later. Tomorrow maybe. When there aren't 200 witnesses. Will you stay? Mom asked. For the cake cutting? For the rest of the party. I'll stay. Still your celebration. Nothing that happened tonight changes that I love you both. It just means we need to redefine how we relate to each other. I walked toward the kitchen, aware of eyes following me, of whispered conversations starting in my wake. By tomorrow everyone at this party would know. The Collins family's quiet daughter owned the venue, the catering company, the car dealership. The failure was actually the most successful one of all. The irony wasn't lost on me. In the kitchen, Chef Rodriguez was putting finishing touches on the anniversary cake. 3 tiers of elegant white chocolate with gold leaf detailing. Beautiful work from the company I owned. It's perfect, I told her. They'll love it. Miss Collins, she said hesitantly. I couldn't help overhearing. Is everything all right with your family? It will be. Eventually. We're just going through some revelations. For what it's worth, I think what you've built is amazing. Gourmet Affairs was failing when you bought it. You saved my job and the jobs of 30 other people. We're grateful. You're talented. I just gave you a stable platform to show it. When I returned to the ballroom, the party had resumed, but the energy was different. People were watching me now, reassessing, recalculating. My parents were surrounded by well-wishers, probably getting questions about why they'd never mentioned their daughter's business empire. Amanda approached me near the bar. Can we talk? Privately. I followed her to a quiet corner of the terrace. The sun was setting, painting the water in shades of orange and pink. I've been a terrible sister, she said without preamble. You've been a competitive sister. There's a difference. No, I've been terrible. I enjoyed being the favorite. I enjoyed Mom and Dad praising me while worrying about you. It made me feel special. You are special, Amanda. You don't need me to fail for you to succeed. I know that now. But I didn't know it then. Or maybe I did and I just liked the feeling too much to question it. She wiped her eyes. $280 million. God, Lily. That's insane. It's numbers on a spreadsheet. It's businesses that need management. It's employees who need stable jobs. That's how I think about it. How did you learn to do this? To see opportunities and structure deals and build a portfolio. Books. Courses. Trial and error. I made mistakes. Bought a restaurant that failed, invested in a retail store that went under. But I learned from each failure. And eventually I stopped failing. Will you teach me? Amanda asked. Not the business stuff. I'm happy with law. But teach me to see you clearly? To be a better sister. I'd like that. Can I tell you something? Of course. I'm jealous. Not of the money, though that's impressive. I'm jealous that you built all this without needing anyone's approval. I've spent my life seeking validation, from mom and dad, from my firm, from everyone. You just did it anyway. I did need validation, I admitted. I just didn't get it from family. I got it from business results, from successful acquisitions, from employees who kept their jobs because I restructured their companies. That was enough. The coordinator approached. 5 minutes to cake cutting. We should get back, I said. Amanda caught my arm. Thank you for not selling the dealership. For keeping it and continuing the family discount on cars. I'm not continuing that discount. What? You and James can afford market rate. So can mom and dad. The dealership's success isn't about propping up my family. It's about serving all customers fairly. Starting next month, you pay full price like everyone else. That's fair, Amanda said after a moment. That's actually completely fair. We walked back inside together. The guests had gathered for the cake cutting. Mom and dad stood together, their hands on the cake knife, smiling for the photographer. They looked happy. Whatever revelations had happened tonight, they still had this. 30 years of marriage, a celebration surrounded by friends and family, a life built together. Before we cut the cake, Dad said into the microphone, his voice stronger now, I need to correct something I said earlier. I toasted my successful daughter. But I need to acknowledge that I have 2 successful daughters. 2 incredible women who've accomplished extraordinary things, each in her own way. Amanda, I'm proud of your partnership and your legal career. And Lily. He paused, his voice catching. Lily, I'm proud of you too. I should have said it years ago. I should have seen what you were building. I'm sorry I didn't. But I see you now. And I'm prouder than you'll ever know. The guests applauded. I felt tears burning in my eyes but blinked them back. To both my daughters, Dad raised his glass again. To Amanda and Lily. Both successful. Both extraordinary. Both loved. To Amanda and Lily, the crowd echoed. I raised my glass and drank. It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase 9 years of being overlooked. But it was a start. After the cake was cut and served, after more toasts and dancing and celebration, after most of the guests had left, I stood on the terrace with my parents and Amanda. The venue staff was cleaning up inside. The sun had long since set, leaving us in the soft glow of string lights. What happens now? Mom asked. With us. How we start over, I said. You stop assuming things about my life. I stop hiding things from you. We communicate like adults who respect each other. And the businesses? Dad asked. Can you tell us about them? Really tell us. All 17 of them if you want. But not tonight. Tonight was your anniversary. Let's not make it about me. It was about you the moment we realized you owned the place we were celebrating in, Amanda said. Kind of hard to ignore that. Fair point. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Dad said, Can I ask why you're selling Riverside Estate? If it's doing well. Portfolio rebalancing. I'm shifting focus to technology and healthcare sectors. Event venues and catering are hospitality. Different expertise, different management needs. Makes more sense to sell to someone who specializes in that space and use the capital for acquisitions in my target sectors. That's strategic, Dad said. That's really strategic. You taught me to think strategically. About long-term growth and diversification. I was listening even when you thought I wasn't. I'm glad, he said. I'm glad something I taught you stuck. Everything you taught me stuck. I just applied it differently than you expected. Mom hugged me suddenly, fiercely. I love you, baby girl. Both my baby girls. Equal and different and both extraordinary. I love you too, Mom. We stood together on the terrace. My family finally seeing me clearly, and for the first time in 9 years I felt like I could breathe. It wasn't perfect. There would be more conversations, more revelations, more adjustments as we figured out this new dynamic. But it was real. Finally, genuinely real. So, Amanda said, breaking the moment, when you sell this place for $16 million, are you going to do something crazy with the money? Probably buy another company that's undervalued and restructure it. That's your version of crazy? That's my version of fun. She laughed. You know what? I get it now. I finally get it. And somehow that meant more than all the money, all the businesses, all the success I'd built. Being seen, really seen by the people who mattered. Worth more than $280 million. Worth everything.